Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Roberts. I work for Bunker Labs. We help military veterans who want to become entrepreneurs. I also run an entrepreneur network in Wilmington, and I run an angel network in Wilmington called Whale. My friend Randy Hollister is here today from Growler Chill. Some things about Randy is Randy and I met when Paul Singh went to Wilmington and then he went to Myrtle Beach. Paul Singh is one of the 3 co-founders of 500 Startups, and he's doing kind of a national tour. We also have a friend in common in Crazy Ray Antonino of Permit Zone, who I believe has also done 1 million cups, and will be presenting tomorrow in Greensboro at their Capital Connects Venture Conference that I suggest you attend. Randy has worked at most of the beer festivals across the country to triple his crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter. So please welcome Randy and his beautiful product, Growler Chill.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning. Any craft beer fans? I'm in the right room. Awesome. Well, I want you to meet Growler Chill. This is the first countertop appliance that lets you keep 3 craft beer growlers cold, fresh, and on tap right at home. There are well over 100,000 different brews in the United States every year that never see a bottle or a can. Special releases, collaborations, one-offs, most of those only go into a keg and get served on tap. Consumers like to be able to drink craft beer at home, and that's a growing number according to research from the Brewers Association. More and more consumers, and particularly millennials, are looking to take those interesting craft beers that they like at a brewery and bring them home and enjoy them there. So to do that, they typically will bring it home in one of these glass bottles called a growler. Growlers are ubiquitous, cheap, reusable, recyclable, legal in all 50 states, but there's a problem with growlers. How many here have used growlers before? What's the problem with growlers?
You gotta drink it all.
You gotta drink it all. Now some people don't think that's a problem. But the idea is that once you take the lid off to enjoy that delicious bottle of Grove from Brewery Bavana, you've done 2 things. You've started letting CO2 outgas from the beer, so it starts slowly going flat. But more importantly, you let oxygen into the bottle, and oxidation rapidly deteriorates the freshness of the beer. So it's good for a day or 2. Now, if it's just one, okay, you can deal with that. But if you wanted several, you might not actually want a whole half gallon of Foothills Sexual Chocolate Stout tonight. Okay, so you may want to let things last a little longer. If you want a variety open at once, you need a way to protect them. And that's the growler problem. And this is the solution to the growler problem. We have solved it. When you bring that, you can now, this beer will last about 3 weeks or more by putting it in Growler Chill. Because when you take the cap off at home, you put our little magic cap on. It's got CO2 straw and some quick connects. So you put that on, it's got a nice tight O-ring seal, seals a lot better than the cap that came with. And now, you've still got a problem because we got oxygen in there, right? So you bring it home to your Growler Chill, and you slide it in up here. This is called the Virginator. Yes, the Virginator. It restores the growler to its previous condition. Okay? So the Virginator, you pop this in, you push it for about 1 second and pull it out. And then what that does is it sends CO2 in the bottom, foams up, pushing the oxygen out the top. We open that port, and then as soon as you pull it out, we close it. So now there's no more oxygen in there. Back to kind of the conditions in the keg. Then we actually invert the bottle. We dispense upside down using gravity and the shape of the neck to help reduce foam waste. CO2 is coming in up here, we're drawing beer out down here, so you don't get a foam problem until the last ounce or so, instead of 6 or 8 or 10 ounces of foam that you might get from the other method. Once you do that, you simply slide it into one of 3 available tracks. I'll get out of the way here in a second, but you slide in any one of those, you click it until it clicks in place. That connects both the beer and the gas line simultaneously. And then all you do is pour a beer, but I don't have any beer in there. Don't get mad, but it is 9 o'clock in the morning.
So?
There is a reason. What's my point, right? So what we've done, we've just purged the oxygen out. We put it in a refrigerated box to keep it cold. It's dark in there, no windows, no glass, and it's under constant CO2 pressure. You think about, those are the conditions in a keg. That puts beer in its happy place. Beyond that, it's a connected device. So once you've done that, there's a screen in the front. We don't have an outlet on this wall, so I couldn't plug it in. But there's a screen on the front, and it will show you what beers, you tell it what beers are in the growler, and it'll also track how much is left. So you're out driving by full steam thinking, wonder what I got in that middle growler. Pull up your phone, oh, I'm down to a pint. I better pick up some on the way home. So, cool idea, right? Well, other people think so too. We've sold nearly $900,000 worth of it in pre-sales. We start shipping next month. We ran a very successful Kickstarter campaign, and then the rest of it has been through social media marketing. We've gotten pretty good at it. We've got nearly 27,000 people now following the product on Facebook, and we've gotten some attention in general media, a lot of earned media as we've gone through the process. So that's the kind of the product. Let's talk about the market. Beer is big business. Beer is a $105 billion industry, and craft is about a $24 billion piece of that industry. Now, what's interesting is craft beer is really only 12% of the production, but it's 22% of the revenue. It's where the dollars are. And that's why all the big beer folks, the Belgian company AB InBev that owns Budweiser, and you got Miller Coors, Heineken, and Constellation, they're all going out buying craft breweries. You had Wicked Weed sell last May in Asheville to AB InBev. But they're buying that because the consumer has moved to craft beer. And so they're trying to get on board. Some of these are billion-dollar deals. Lagunitas and Ballast Point were both billion-dollar acquisitions. And the growth in breweries, in 4 years, we have doubled the number of craft breweries in the United States. We're at over 6,000 now. 83% of the American population lives within 10 miles of a craft brewery. It's everywhere. It's not just an urban experience. And now we're over 50 million people who regularly drink craft beer. What about growlers? Well, growlers, it's harder to come up with real good numbers on growlers because a brewery knows how many cans they pushed out the door, or bottles, or kegs. But they don't know how that keg got dispensed. Did it go into a 12-ounce glass or a pint glass, or did it go into a growler? They don't really know. But the Brewers Association, based on some 2014 numbers, estimated that there are 10.7 million growler fills a year. And I'm going to show you why I think that's a really low number. But I think that's a pretty impressive number. And every one of those growlers goes bad within a day or two of opening. And we have solved that. By solving the perishability problem, we think that growlers become a much bigger part of the consumer experience with craft beer. These containers are legal everywhere, and that's a limitation that lots and lots of other containers don't have. Consumers are used to it. Brewers don't have to have any special equipment to fill them. They do it now. Everybody's kind of in the habit. You'd think a market that strong would draw a lot of competition, right? No. The competition, there are lots of folks who, like us, recognize the growler problem, but their solution to the growler problem was, well, let's get rid of growlers. So they've tried to replace the container with something else. There's pressurized metal containers, U-keg, man can, drink tanks. There's some of the ones I pictured. There are a variety of them. It's basically like a thermos. It's an insulated metal bottle. It'll hold typically 64 or 128 ounces. But you get a single variety. There's no purging, so you still have to drink it pretty rapidly, but it keeps it charged and pressurized. And then there was a product came out about a year ahead of us called Cynic. And their idea, it is a refrigerated device, but their whole idea was they wanted to be the Keurig of beer. They wanted the industry and consumers to adopt their proprietary container and be, the container guys for it. But their container is a 128 ounce bag of beer. And the bag of beer concept didn't really catch on. Okay? Brewers and bars and fill stations had to have special equipment to use it, and they didn't want to hook up foreign equipment to their tap system and maybe contaminate, so they were worried about that. People weren't real cool with the idea of hauling back their IV bag of beer and stuffing it in the machine. And then finally, they had a little legal problem in that their bag of beer, the container wasn't legal in some states like Virginia and North Carolina. So they had a problem getting a lot of traction in the marketplace. We took a different approach. We said if there's a problem with growlers, why don't we fix the problem with growlers, but keep using the industry container, the one everybody's already happy with, has used it for years, probably have a half dozen of them. They cost $3 to $5 to buy, and that's with the brewery getting a good markup. And they're everywhere, and they're legal in all 50 states. So our business model, we launched on Kickstarter, and then we've done social media marketing since then, and we found that, you know what? Our target market, which the highest demographic group for us are millennials, but it's closely followed by baby boomers. They're perfectly comfortable buying this product online. And whatever the market for your product is, however big, the portion of that market that's willing to buy it knowing it's 6 months or a year out and it's only at the prototype stage is a whole lot smaller. Yet we've still sold almost $900,000 worth of it in pre-sales. We start shipping in April. We've been selling at $439 on our website now. We're going to bump that to $499. Might even go a bit higher than that once we start shipping. Once we move out of the pre-sale mode. There's also additional revenue opportunity with the CO2 cartridges. This runs on CO2 cartridges that this will power about 9 growlers. And because it's a Wi-Fi connected device, people can actually sign up for a automatic replenishment service, the way you reload a Starbucks card. Gee, get down to 1, send me 2 more kind of thing. So we'll have that source of revenue as well as extra caps and things like that. We sell a lot of t-shirts, koozies, pint glasses, etc. But once we are at a point where we're closer to, where the backlog's eliminated and we're closer to being able to ship rapidly from the time an order's placed, at that point, we've developed a program for brewers, bars, and fill stations for affiliate marketing. Breweries and fill stations love this because it lets people buy more beer from them, and that's their business. So if they could display one of these units and then take orders, we'll fulfill the orders direct. They get a little commission. So we see that as a strong channel and have actually been in talks with a few. We've had a couple of premium retailers reach out to us, and that's a direction that may well make sense to us in the future too. We don't know. Our forecast in sales, this year, 2018, we expect to sell another 3,800 of them this year. We've already sold a couple thousand, so we're going to be making 5,800 of them. We're going to raise about $2.2 million this year in sales revenue. Next year, though, once we're in steady state production, we think we can do a couple thousand units a month, pretty conservatively. Keep in mind that 2,000 units a month, to put it in perspective, 80,000 people have viewed our Kickstarter video. So we think there's a pretty deep market there. So our challenge is get out there and satisfy that market. But we think that at a steady run rate that we're at least a $10 million a year company. There are things we need. We are kind of in that transition of going from developing a product and marketing it to building it and shipping it and being in production. So we are looking for what I call a late stage co-founder, but somebody to come in who's got experience in startup world with a tangible product, deal with things like supply chain management, that kind of stuff. So we're hopeful that we can, that if you know of folks who fit that bill, if you'd pass our information along to them, I would appreciate it. We'd like to talk. That would be a salary and equity kind of arrangement. We're looking for a manufacturing partner. We've got meetings today here in the Triangle. We're starting out building them in-house, but to get to scale, we are going to have to move to contract manufacturing of some sort, somebody that's got kind of a well-oiled machine for getting product built and out the door. So we're looking for who that key partner might be. And then finally, we're a startup. We're always interested in introductions to thirsty accredited investors. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions. That's Growler Chill.
So, speak up for everybody, just real quick. As you speak up, the microphone for the rest is over here. If you could stand up, I'll move the camera around so we can kind of see it. But if you can speak up so we can hear you, that'd be great.
Where's the microphone?
It'll be right here.
All right, good. So one probably funny comment and one question that will be more serious. Have you considered changing the name of this to the Virginator? I think you'll double your.
Let me tell you, before you go on with your next comment, we applied for a trademark on Virginator, right? And you don't necessarily want to do a Google search on that. but let me tell you, we got a letter from Richard Branson's group, Virgin Records, Virgin Link, saying that they would oppose our trademark, but they'd be willing to allow us to use it. They just didn't want us to be able to register it.
There you go.
So, anyway,
it occurred to me the spoilage issue you're trying to circumvent or solve might actually be bad for the breweries, because if somebody needs to go through the product quicker, that spoilage actually makes them run back to the brewery and get more growlers filled. So are you in essence actually slowing the sales process and not speeding it up?
the key is, this is 4 glasses of beer. Okay, so someone one's not all that big a problem unless you don't think you're going to go through that for a couple of days. You probably are not going to buy this saying, well, I'll drink 2 of them and pour the rest out. So we think that the value of knowing it's not going to be, would you buy eggs by the dozen if you knew the time that you pulled the first one out, you had to get rid of all the rest or use them up that day? Probably not. The fact that you've got time on your side gives you the ability to buy more. But more importantly, you get the ability to have variety and have them open at once. Somebody in the house likes sours, and somebody likes stouts, and somebody likes New England IPA. So you've got all these different varieties. Well, if you open all those, now you don't just have 1 you got to get rid of. You got 2 you got to get rid of, or 3 you got to get rid of. By making it so, hey, you got 3 weeks, take your time, get there. You're more likely to walk out of that brewery with 2 or 3 of these that you liked instead of just 1. Yeah.
Got 2 questions. One is, what does it take to keep it clean?
The question is, what does it take to keep it clean? What we have, when you receive one, it comes with a little 4-ounce cleaning bottle. But all you need to do is fill that with water, put the cap on it, and then put it in and pour it through, and that rinses the lines. We use antimicrobial lines, and then there's some sanitization tablets that you run through periodically to sanitize the system, and the cap, you toss it in the dishwasher. It's dishwasher safe. So you're able to clean the system, rinse it out. The lines are short. The beer line holds 2 tablespoons of beer. So from the bottle to the tap. And so you don't really have a lot of waste if you're hot swapping, etc.
The other question is, what about the energy efficiency of the unit?
The question was on energy efficiency of the unit. This uses it's a compressor-based system. It's essentially, it runs like a dorm fridge. So if you think about kind of the use of that, you can see the area that we're cooling isn't very much. So it's a small dorm fridge refrigerator. I don't have the numbers in my head on exactly what the ratings are. Other question?
Go to Zach.
Yeah.
So you showed a slide on competitors, different products, slight deviations, or sometimes significant deviations. What are the barriers to entry for others to come in? And is there IP associated?
Yeah, we have filed for patent protection on the Virginator and the inverted dispensing techniques and the smart home integration, the iOS device integration, or the IoT device integration. But that pretty much just lets you file lawsuits. That doesn't necessarily protect the product. The key for us is get out there with a product that solves the problem. And we believe that through the app that there's an opportunity then to create more of an ecosystem. Down the road, we see the opportunity, for example, for brewers, bars, and fill stations to be able to tie into their favorite customers. Gee, I favorite this brewery. They'll let me know in my app and maybe on screen in my kitchen or man cave that here's a new brew we came out with you haven't tried before, or here your favorite's back on tap. So there are some opportunities there that we think can be developed out as well that help make it harder for others to enter into the market space.
Have you considered like a recommendation engine? So like
we have.
So
The question is, have you considered a recommendation engine? And we've talked about either integrating or incorporating that through here, because you could then say, gee, these are the beers I like. I'm likely to like these. And oh, by the way, they're available here, here, and here within 10 miles of your location.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Yes.
We have the woman in the back. She's been waiting very
Jen, I'm sorry.
Hi.
Okay.
Is there anything proprietary? Do you have any IP? Number one. Number two, what is the cost of the CO2 cartridges? And number three, we know the cost of the unit, but what is your gross margin?
Okay. First of all, the cost of the units of the CO2 cartridges are, we haven't set the retail on it, but they're probably going to be like 2 for $15, something along those lines. And we're still kind of playing with that. There are 2 different sources that we're working with, and we're trying to see where that goes. The margin on the units now is awful because we're manually building units to start. But that's why as we transitioned into scalable production, we think we drive the cost down in the high 2s, 285 to 300 range when we get to that to the point that there's some things, for example, tooling. Right now, the box inside the cold box, we're building it out, rigid foam clad with aluminum, and building that box. Well, that needs to be a molded piece, but that molded piece is going to require tooling. So that's part of after we get an investment round, then we can tool and drive down unit costs. I'm sorry, Jim, what was the first question?
Anything proprietary?
Oh, proprietary. We filed for patent protection on the versionator unit, the inverted filling, the dispensing method, and the IoT integration. We did a provisional patent a year ago, March, and then we filed the full patent last March. So it's working its way through the process. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna couple comments. Actually, I think this is actually going to drive sales because a lot of people are going to want to have multiple beers, and this has been driving issues for people that don't want to have a lot of them at home because you waste. So that does a comment.
And it keeps them out of your refrigerator. Gives you more space.
Yeah. The other things I would actually ask is, I know for like pony kegs, like what's the cost difference between like a pony keg setup with a tap compared to that? That was one of my questions. And the other thing on the app, I do agree, leverage the app with the big boys or whoever so they can actually tie in. They'll probably come to you and tie that in so that they can get refills, all what you're saying. I think that actually is a huge market where you can.
You don't have any connections with some of those big boys. I'm liking what I'm hearing.
Well, I do think the app's the key in some of this because refills, people want to know that. The brewing people don't know that information. That is a market in a half.
We will have data that is currently not available in the marketplace. All those estimates that the Brewers Association makes about growlers, well, we're going to actually have real customers who bought real product, and they'll know what and how long and all that. So we'll actually be able to contribute to that.
Fairly driving refills, all that stuff. All of it. They could send marketing.
Couponing, all kinds of things in states where it's legal. Yeah, in the back.
Great knowledge of your product. I love your presentation. It occurs to me though that once it goes, the consumerism takes over. Half of the people buying will probably be gifts, because you have to imagine like, hey, my husband loves this. This will be perfect. Where do you put it? It has a relatively big footprint for a small home or apartment or townhome. my recommendation would be probably sell it with a shelf or some kind of rolling device as well. That'll add a little
Good idea.
little bit to your profitability, because there's no room in my kitchen for that. But
So you have a cart purpose, the right size and shape.
one
for it.
that's built to
Yeah.
and just say here. So that might be
Hold some
additional
growlers
cost.
underneath, maybe a little rack for some beer stems.
Something to that extent. Yeah. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I had a question regarding the caps.
Uh-huh.
Had you thought about different sizes?
We currently support, now this will work with 32 ounce
Right.
or 128 ounce growlers, but they have to be the one with this 38 millimeter cap.
Right.
There are the smaller ones, the little Boston bottle, it's a
Yeah.
smaller opening. The problem is, I got so much stuff I've got to get in that opening that we have not yet been able to really engineer that. I'm not saying it's not possible, but we haven't focused any attention on that till we get this out. But part of the problem is, you see how far apart these are?
That was my question.
Well, that's got to stay that way, so now I've got to be able to machine something that's going to go at an angle to get into a smaller diameter. So I don't have the answer to that yet.
Okay.
It's on our radar screen. But whether we get there or not, I can't tell you. This is, and this container, this specific container, is the one that's legal everywhere. Florida was the last to legalize it just 2 years ago. Yeah.
How do you measure the capacity that's left, and also as far as the cap size, you can probably make an adapter,
Yeah,
two different size adapter.
and that's possible, but we do have a height restriction, and the height restriction is we got to make sure this fits under a standard overhead cupboard, so I can't go up to make room for an adapter.
Measuring.
The measuring we have weight sensors under each of the growler plates, and so those weight sensors, when you put in a full growler, we know how much we now say it's full, and so we start counting down. As the weight goes down, we calculate the number of pints remaining. Yeah. Okay. Is time up? Is that?
No,
okay.
keep going, there's
Yeah.
another.
Have you considered, I don't know whether you're using traditional refrigeration or whether you're using refrigeration systems that have no moving parts?
This is using standard refrigeration, but we are in discussion with a local firm who right now their plate is full, but they've expressed an interest in wanting to work with us on developing that, which will allow us to shrink this dimension, the depth of the product, and it's solid state cooling rather than the compressor shaves a tremendous amount of weight off the product. There are a lot of good advantages, and they've got some amazing technologies, Phononics here in Durham, but that'll be kind of the round two product.
It would also have your eco capability too. You'd reduce the amount of energy you're using as well. So.
Yeah. Yes.
Have you thought about the rental market at all? This to me, great party piece to be able to rent out.
It could be. We've had interest in the restaurant space. I've had at beer festivals around the country. I've had at least a half dozen restaurateurs come up to me and say, "Hey, I got this small restaurant. I want to be able to serve local craft beer, but I don't go through the kegs fast enough, and I can't offer any variety. This would be great." So we've got a concept for a commercial version that would be modular, where they can set up 2, 4, 6, whatever it is, and be able to dispense that way. And then we've been approached by in Myrtle Beach. We're based in the Myrtle Beach area. We've been approached by someone there that has the golf tourism market, and they're thinking, man, this would be a perfect thing to put in these golf condos. And then so that's a direction.
Familiarity with the North Carolina Alcohol Beverage Commission. Make sure you thoroughly investigate that, because when you do resale out of something that's already been sold, you have a high chance that you'll have to pay taxes.
Yeah, good point. One of the limitations that we really have is every state, beer is regulated at state level, and they're all different. Some states, only breweries can fill a growler. Some states, brewers can't fill the growler if they sell more than 25,000 barrels a year. Some it's grocery stores. I think North Carolina does grocery stores. Lowe's Food, my local store. I mean, we've got a regular crowd that meets for Thirsty Thursdays. So I mean, it's every state's got its own unique things. Some states allow couponing on beer, some don't. So it's one of those things that has to be navigated locally, definitely.
I just want to pipe in just just to let everybody know, unfortunately, our second presenter canceled this morning, kind of last minute, so.
I'll be your second presenter.
We can just, to the extent we still have questions and people are engaged, we'll just keep going.
Awesome,
all right?
thank you.
All right.
Keep going. Bob said he just said, you know, this would be great, because he already spoke once. He can't speak twice. No, actually, he said this would be a great service. $50 a month, 12 months is your 600 mark rather than your 499.
I like that.
39. So that would be a great way to get them on board. And as you keep improving, you know, its footprint and its deliverable, you can just replace them as needed. But that might be a better model to
That's
get
what,
more money.
BAAS, beer as a service?
No, keep the Virginator in there too.
But God, can't get rid of the Virginator. You have a question?
Oh, no.
Others?
My question is, were you bald with white hair before you became an entrepreneur?
Let me tell you, I've done two software startups. I've done two software startups before in the real estate space. This is the first time building a widget. Widgets are hard. When you have a comma in the wrong spot in software, you fix the comma, you push it up, everybody's happy. You get something apart, a prototype comes to you and it's 1/8 of an inch off. It's 3 or 4 weeks before you get the next iteration to test to see if that one works. Because everything takes longer. Supply chain this is sourced right now on 4 continents. We have parts from the UK, from Brazil, from China, and then from here in mostly in the two Carolinas. So it is challenging, and that's part of why we are looking and meeting with folks to help us on the manufacturing side, to help us figure out how can we streamline this, get folks who have real experience at supply chain management and being able to pull all those disparate pieces together to be able to do it at volume. We can build in small quantities. We know how to do that. We're doing that. But in terms of hitting the kind of numbers that the market tells us we're going to be selling at, we need to have that kind of depth, and that's the reason that's on our ask list. Yes.
Can you use tap handles?
Oh yeah, these are replaceable, so you can get your own, and that we see as a revenue opportunity. Yep. We've even talked about, we've got an idea for a 3D printed handle where people could upload a design, we'd shoot out their own customized tap handles, home brewers, things like that. And then on the brewery bar, that really resonated. Hey Chris, make a note on that one. We do that. That's what we like. And for the brewers, bars, and fill stations, imagine if you're at full steam and you see this here and you place an order with them, if it came with some little full steam handles that they had designed. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Yes.
So why 3, not 2, not 4? Just curious.
When we started this, the first thing, this whole thing started. Anybody been to Jughead's in Winston-Salem? All right. That's where this idea came from. My younger son, who was 25 at the time, and a buddy were sitting at Jughead's. It's a growler and beer bar kind of thing in Winston-Salem. And they're trying to come up with a housewarming present for a buddy of theirs who graduated Clemson with them, just bought a house down in Greenville, South Carolina. And so they're sitting there watching people fill growlers. Oh, let's give them a kegerator for growlers. Went online, couldn't find one. The next day was Father's Day, 2015. Ken calls me up to wish me happy Father's Day and said, by the way, Dad, I think there's something you need to invent. I spent a couple months looking around, digging in, looking at the market, looking out there, and I agreed he was right. Shut down my commercial real estate practice and started Growler Chill. So that's where the idea came from. By the way, I gave him 1% of the company because I said that's the relative value of an idea versus execution.
Why 3?
No, the question is why 3. We did focus groups. We had one at New South Brewery in Myrtle Beach. And we said, hey, give us 10 or 12 of your best regular growler customers. Ask them if they'd come in, spend 10 minutes with us out in the brew house, picnic table, and we'll give them a growler fill if they'll give us a little of their opinion. And we did mock-ups. We had nothing but sketch, you know, we had different renderings. What's it need to look like? We had a steampunk look, and we had Art Deco, and we had Euro modern, all these different designs. And, well, you know, what kind of look do you like? We asked 2 taps, 3 taps. 1 tap doesn't make any sense. It's just too much apparatus for 4 glasses of beer. But between 2 and 3, it was somewhat evenly split. But it was our judgment that the variety part is what really makes the product worthwhile, because you can keep one variety if you know what you want to do it. Don't open the next one until you're ready. So, but it's wanting to keep several of them open at once and having that variety. You know, some of these heavy, more of a dessert stout. Those, you know, you might only want a little 8-ounce pour of that every evening as kind of a nightcap. You don't want to sit there and drink a half gallon of it. So the reason for 3 was that we gave that variety. I will tell you that we do have a 2-tap version planned, but there wouldn't be a 1-tap version. And 4, I think it'd just be too big until, you know, because face it, I've got to have room for 3 of these now. I'd have to have room for 4 of them. So I think size just makes it something that pretty much limits that. But I'm happy to sell people 2 of them, which gives them 6.
You may have said this, but how did you engineer it? You did that, or did you outsource it?
How did we engineer? Well, through some missteps, we started working. There's in South Carolina. There's a organization called Southeastern Institute of Manufacturing Technology. It's connected with the state's technical college system, and they do prototyping, widgets and stuff. And they we started working with them on some stuff, and then I found a retired engineer who loved the idea, and he started working with us, and he did most of that, taking my ideas and my features and my wish list and kind of turning them into how can we implement that. But there's still some work to be done. He was not really a manufacturing guy, and that's why as we start working with folks in manufacturing, they're going to find ways to make this more efficiently than the way we're making them, and we know that we're counting on that. So there will be changes, but we've got the look and feel and feature set down, and now it's a matter of how do we build that in the most economical way possible so we can keep the price and the margins at good levels. Yes?
If you had to do the journey again, would you do anything different?
Oh, 100 things. Yeah. I went. The question, would you do anything different? We've had supply chain issues. We'd have certainly picked different directions there. We started out with a cabinet manufacturer that was all game for us, but we were kind of a fill-in project for him. And then all of a sudden, his real work got a big uptick, and we weren't very important anymore. Well, that was a mistake, but I didn't know, but that's a mistake we made. I know now. So yeah, there are a lot of things we'd have done differently. In terms of the way the product came out, I'm real happy with that. I've had these one version or another from prototypes on my countertop since May. This thing works great. It is so cool to have one. Any others? Yes.
So as you evolve and you're looking for contract manufacturing, they'll assemble and ship to consumers, or will it come through you for quality check?
There are a couple of different ways, and that all depends. There are some options where we might actually bring in a partially assembled unit, and then we finish out with the beer gas plumbing. Basically have the dorm fridge part built somewhere and shipped to us. We finish it all the way up to we have somebody to build the whole thing, ship it direct to a consumer or through a warehouse. Any of those are on the table. We need to look and see what makes sense. And we'll consider all options, and we're not predisposed to one particular solution.
You mentioned a couple ways that you'll be getting this out to customers, but do you have any sort of sales force, or how are you reaching out to these breweries and?
The question is, what about sales force? How do we reach out to the breweries, et cetera? Right now, because we're months away from being able to take an order today and ship it tomorrow, we've got a couple thousand units we have to build to get out for the folks we've already sold. So as we get closer to that point where we can fulfill orders currently, that's when we'll start ramping up that program to reach out to the breweries, bars, and fill stations. We also do a lot of beer festivals. That's proven to be a great way for people to do it. By the way, I've got a couple of iPads up here. If you want to give us all I ask for is email address and zip code, and we'll keep you up to date on the product changes, any special deals we do. This is what we did at all the festivals and things. We've got more than 15,000 people that signed up saying, tell me more about the product. So that's part of it, but we will at some point be looking for folks to help us in reaching out to the breweries, bars, and fill stations, to help working festivals in different parts of the states and stuff. Right now, the festival crew is me and whoever I can get to go with me. You know, surprisingly, my kids thought when I was going to a beer festival every weekend that I had the coolest job in the world. And they might have been right.
Are your employees paid in beer?
Hey, that's another note to put down. Let's pay people in beer.
So for the 22 million people watching on Facebook right now, what advice do you have for the entrepreneurs on your crowdfunding success?
Yeah, we had a pretty good run with our Kickstarter campaign. The way that we made Kickstarter work, we raised $668,000 in our Kickstarter, and the way it worked was simply we created demand beforehand. Kickstarter does not bring you customers. Kickstarter brings you a venue and a platform that when you send customers there, they can interact. And so we drove people, and in particular, one of the ideas we had that at the time was somewhat novel, but I think is maybe catching on now, we wanted to have a big first day because that helps you get that earned media. I showed you a slide of all those places that wrote us up. Well, have a big first day. So rather, typically in Kickstarter or Indiegogo, you'll have like, well, there's 100 available at this price and 150 available at this price. We changed it up and said, if you buy it on day one, the first 24 hours of the campaign, you'll save $100 off our projected retail. After day one, then it was going to be, the price went up $30. And then for a couple of weeks, and that went up another $30 for a couple of weeks. So we did a time-based one, and that seemed to work really well for us. In 10 hours, we broke into the top 3% of all successfully funded Kickstarters. And in 10 hours into a 35-day campaign. So we were pretty proud of the results we had.
Okay, guys, we're running out of time.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate your
official beer mug.
I love that.
1 million cups.
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
So that was a record for the number of photos taken during one of our pitches. So I love this product. I think it's a beautiful product, and thank you very much, Randy, for coming
Thank you for the opportunity.
from South Carolina. Any other announcements that we need to make?
A couple of things. I want to introduce our newest 1MC organizer, Josh Stubalo. Just stand up, wave your hand. Everybody probably recognizes Josh. Recently joined the team, so we're really excited. We've got one other individual who couldn't be here today, so I'll announce her when she's here, so everybody can get to know her. Does anybody have any community announcements they'd like to share? Beer party you want to invite us to?
There is tomorrow in Greensboro, it's an event called Capital Connects. It goes from, I think, noon to around 7. It's their annual venture capital conference. Ray Antonino, who is a member of Bunker, also one of my whale portfolio clients, is one of the presenters. So if you guys are interested, tickets are free. So if you don't have anything tomorrow, which I hope you do, but anyway, yes.
I work for Hyperspace Ventures. We're putting on what we call a next gen pitch contest. We've done 2 already at some of the local high schools, and we're doing one on March 24th. And we are looking for a few sponsors and judges for the event. These are really exciting events. We've actually had some ideas that are already funded from high school kids that are coming out of these. With one of them just got $1 million contract from a retailer for. I won't go into what the deal is. If you want to talk to me, we can. But